Really fun to taste them side by side, the AB and the double A. So you can do a cupping here.
Oh.
Whoop.
Whoop. I'm happy you did it.
And tager vi lige om. Hello and welcome to our new office space where we're shooting the video today. And then welcome to Mikaela.
Hello.
Who's joining us today to talk about the two coffees that you're receiving this time, which is from Kieni in Kenya. The best coffee we have.
In the world. And
in
here.
the world.
In Denmark.
And I might be biased. Mikaela is our HR and also a barista. You've been with us for a number of years. She's the silver medalist in the World Brewers Cup in 2016.
A while ago now.
Yeah, competing with Kieni. So I prepared a little cupping for us, because that's the most fun way. And so the coffees that you're getting this time is both from Kieni, but it's the two different sorting sizes. It's the double A and the ABs. So let's start over here with the ABs. We're doing the double spoon system here so that we can be doing a Corona-friendly cupping.
Yes.
So what's the first thing that strikes you tasting a fresh crop Kenyan coffee that literally just arrived in Denmark 2 weeks ago? So we just had a little bit of time to test roast.
To me, it's definitely the aroma of like black currants, fruit, berries. It's so overpowering and exciting somehow. Like every time I sniff it or taste it, I'm like, wow. And that's also when I started to. I'm from Finland originally, so when I came to Denmark first time, I visited Coffee Collective. This is like 2011, I think.
Yeah.
And I got a coffee. I got the Kieni on AeroPress, and I remember tasting it. I was like, "Is this coffee?" And I think a lot of people have this, but for me, it's Kieni. So it also like brings back a lot of these memories, and every time is the wow effect, and that keeps surprising me daily.
Yeah. When the fresh crop arrives, it's always so much more acidic, lively, juicy. We want you to experience that, the fresh flavors of fresh crop just coming in. So tasting these two coffees side by side, going from the AB, as you said, it has a lot of those like classic Kenyan flavors. Then you taste the double A, and it's like more of everything. And it's more acidity, there's more aromas, there's more sweetness, it's fuller bodied. The only thing there's not more of is bitterness. Some years they're really remarkably close. This year, however, is one of those years that cements why the double A's are always fetching a higher price. That's how it tastes.
But the AB doesn't come far off. It is just amplified somehow in the AA.
Yeah.
I think at home, if you can brew them side by side, that's always the best. If you have 2 beers or 2 glasses of wine and you can taste them side by side, it's the same with coffee, because when you just have one, you enjoy it. But if you have side by side, you can have this back and forth tasting, and that's when you really notice the differences, and that when it gets really fun. It's a bit more effort to do too, but it's worth it when it's a difference there.
Definitely. And then we're gonna just do a small cupping of the espresso as well. We roast to highlight still the aromas. We still want the acidity to come out, but we want the acidity to be balanced when brewed as espresso. This is still gonna be a fruit bomb for you, trying it as espresso. And I think you will still taste exactly the same things that we talked about here when you're brewing these up as espresso. So a little bit more balance on the AB. I think the AB actually has a superb body. It's balanced, it's full, it's nice, really good sweetness. And then you get to the AA. And it's just even more of an explosion. It's more acidity, especially. It's more aroma coming out. I think if you're brewing espresso and gonna mix it with milk, I would use the AB for that. I think you'll get that black current through the milk, but you also have the body.
It's
gonna be a milkshake, yeah.
It's definitely like a bold move.
Yeah.
Like bold coffee to have. It's a conversation starter, and it turns heads, I would say, as a coffee.
Yeah, and you're gonna have heaps of blackberries, black currant. There's some gooseberry in there as well, like really ripe gooseberries. So yeah, have fun with that one. I thought it'd be fun to show you a little bit of video from your visit to Kieni about 5 or 6 years ago, so we can have a laugh at that. Do you remember what was your first impression when you arrived in Kenya?
So I remember stepping out of the airport to this blanket of heat, this such a like warm temperature of a welcome. I was just amazed by just looking at the stars and seeing Nairobi in the distance. So yeah, just a fantastic welcome to a country.
Let's see some of the video we took back
Memory
then.
lane.
Yeah, so here we are with Callum was on the trip as well. Callum, who's now our wholesale manager, and here he is with Charles at Kieni, and it was pouring down.
Yes. I was maybe expecting a bit more sunshine, like a trip to Africa. Kenyan forest, beautiful. I think
And
you found
grey
some.
and rainy. Yeah.
You found some sugar cane, and then I could just hear you and Callum like.
Yeah, sugarcane is the best. It's like when you get that fresh and they just chop it down and you're like chewing and sucking the liquid out. I mean, it's pure sugar juice, but it has this fruitiness to it, and yeah, it's a nice little booster when you're running low on energy in the afternoon as well.
Yeah.
We went to visit quite a few families or producers who are members of Kieni on the trip. Here's one of them that were presenting a little bit about their farm and how they're working, and I think it was at this farm that I remember they had like a sloping hill in the back, and they had these chickens running around.
Yeah.
And they were just the most insanely big
Muscular
chickens I've ever seen. Like they had legs like, I don't know, a dog or something. It was like just crazy. Yeah.
And then one of the families invited us for lunch, which is so kind. But I don't think I've ever had as a muscular chicken leg that I've been chewing, because they've been running those hills, so no wonder they need to build muscle.
But it's such a fantastic experience to be invited into someone's house at the farm. They've prepared this lunch that we didn't know about, and it's a great opportunity to talk to them in a little bit more casual way,
sit down
and you know, it's
and
like their guards come down and they can start asking and maybe poking a little bit about like, what about coffee prices? What about what does a cup of coffee cost in Denmark? And
what do the Danish customers ask about Kieni and their coffees? And they're really, really curious about what happens on this side of the world and what's wanted here. So they're trying to create that connection. And I always, when you can be more casual, sit down, talk about whatever weather and the societies or the culture in a different place. You just connect in a human way, not just business. So it's very important.
And I really think that part is hugely important to us, that you establish that relationship and some trust, because it opens up also when you come to the business side of things, it opens up more that they can actually ask tougher questions to you. And then when to check out the fields as well.
And to try to pick the cherries, it's a classic barista going to a farm and trying to pick the cherries as quickly as they do. We just sucked, like barely can get them out of the bush, and but to see how that works and try to figure out the color difference, and we think that we understand, but when you're there and trying to see what you should be picking, it's actually difficult. And they were just so quick.
And it's pretty remarkable. There's about, for a double espresso, you have about 80 beans in here. That's 40 coffee cherries, hand-picked, selectively hand-picked. You only pick the right ones off the tree, then put into a basket, then probably sorted 2 or 3 times before it's delivered at the receiving station at Kieni.
Yeah.
And from there, all the post-harvest processing happens. So it's a lot of work. It's quite remarkable.
Not so much.
I also thought it was super fun to see you engaging with the farmers, because you're a very curious and inquisitive person. Like you really love talking to people, and so to just kind of like see you roam out there and starting chatting with farmers and connecting with especially some of the women that maybe connected better with you than they did with me, that was super impressive. And this is getting to one of my favorite moments of the trip. It was after harvesting, the farmers had collected the cherries, and then you and Callum really got into this this little hut together with them, where there was a whole family picking out.
I brewed them coffee. I remember. We brought roasted Kieni from here. I brewed it to them. So now they have all the cherries they've been picking, and the whole group comes together to get all the all overripe and underripes off the bag, so they don't deliver those.
The neighbor to this family that we were hanging out with, and he was like pulling my sleeve a little bit and said, "Do you want to come and see my farm as well?" It's like, yeah, sure. Actually, I needed like a little break away and
From Mikaela and Cal.
from all the chatting. And then it was the most surprising visit I think I've had. His name is Joseph Ngari, and this was the first trip where I met him.
Yeah, okay.
And I made a point of trying to visit him every year since then. He is one of the most fantastic farmers that I know. I'm actually literally getting goosebumps talking about him now, because I remember walking into his field, and first of all, he was explaining with such pride about the SL28 that he has, which is one of the old varieties in Kenya and is largely responsible for these black currant flavors that we really love in Kenyan coffees. And Joto was explaining to me he will be the last farmer
would be good.
to change out from his SL28s. He loves those plants, and he says if you're careful with them, they produce just as much, they're just as resistant. Then we get to the actual delivery of coffee cherries at Kieni.
So this is exactly what the family we talked about before, they were doing at home already as a group. Now they come to Kieni and they need to open their bags basically and do a final sorting before they put all the coffee back in the bag and take it to the weight.
And the way it works is that when all the coffee is sold at the end of the season, the proceeds or the profit from the sales is then divided out to each of the farmers depending on how much coffee cherries they deliver. Then after weighing, the coffee is put into the collecting bin, and then it goes into the depulper. This is a vertical disc pulper, and the discs are actually squeezing out the coffee cherries, and then the lighter ones will float on top of this water that's agitated, and they'll go into one fermentation tank. It's referred to as P2, which is the lower quality. At the bottom, the better beans come out, and that will go into another fermentation tank called P1 for parchment one. That's the better quality. So there's again another sorting step here.
I just kept looking at it like, how do you know where they're supposed to go?
Yeah. Then it goes into the fermentation tank. I know I have, yeah. Where it's fermenting overnight. So they're delivering in the afternoon, it ferments overnight. And then next morning, Josh Pat will literally go and, you remember how he was like just putting his fingers in and rubbing the beans between his fingers to see if the mucilage had broken down.
The sugar layer, how the sugar layer kind of felt in the beans. So he would just, and we were asking like, how do you know? How does it feel? And it's like, I know it.
And then you got to try your hands on actually washing the coffee in the washing channels. How was that?
Sweaty business. It's actually like you have the water pushing the coffee forward, but you need this little, what do you call it?
Yeah,
little
paddle
to move it along.
And from there it goes into the soaking tanks, and then it's pumped onto the drying beds. So the optimal drying is somewhere between 10 and 14 days for beginning with a moisture content about 50% and going down to around 11% moisture. So at this point the coffee is actually in the collecting bins in the storage facility at Kieni, and this is where it's ready to be delivered to the dry mill. And I think we'll cover that in another video because this is where the coffee leaves Kieni. And of course, lots of stuff happens at the dry mill. But there's one thing that we should talk about the dry mill, which is basically what you're tasting in the difference. And that's the difference between AA and AB. Starting with the largest one on top, and then all the smaller ones will drop down. And so you have all these different sizes.
And it's a huge machine that shakes like crazy.
Yeah, like crazy. And coffee coming in on the top and coming down, and that sorts out all the sizes. The two coffees you're tasting is from the exact same outturn, so the same weeks of harvest blended together from all these farmers, but it's the same outturn, just the two different sizes that you're tasting. So we hope you'll enjoy tasting that.
Yes, and if I would still compete 5 years after, I would still choose the same. Because what's better than this?
Nothing. Thank you so much for joining me, Mikaela. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me go on a memory lane with you. And
it was fun. Let's hope we can go back to Kenya again soon. And thank you for watching.